Hey guys, Truetalk here, and today we're going to be talking about episode 10 of Black Lightning that just aired today. So the first thing that I want to talk about is Lala. So in this episode we continue to see Lala, and we see that he is now having hallucinations or visions of his nephew Will, who he killed way back earlier in the season. And we also see that a tattoo of Will appears on his chest, much like when he was hallucinating Lawanda, and Lawanda's picture or face ended up being tattooed on his chest. So this episode we see that he kills one of his goons, or the 100 gang goons. So I would be interested to see if we're going to be seeing that guy again being hallucinated by Lala and his face end up on Lala's chest, much like Will and Lawanda. The next thing that I want to talk about is at the very beginning of this episode, we see 2-Bit witness a student buying green light, taking green light, and manifesting powers. And we see that this student gets kidnapped by some guys in a white van, and we later find out, or by induction, we can conclude that the ASA is the ones kidnapping these kids like they did 30 years ago. And green light is, another drug that they're putting out there to see if anyone manifests powers, much like they did in the 30 years ago in Freeland. And we also know in this episode, as a continuation from last episode of Gamby finding the warehouse, we see Anissa visit it by herself and discover that these kids are still alive in these, tubes, and are in a state of stasis. And we also see Anissa and her father go back later on, and it's been cleaned out. So the ASA knows that their warehouse has been discovered, which will come into another point that I want to bring up later. The next thing that I want to talk about is Jennifer in this episode. So we see in this episode that she is continuing to struggle with the idea of having powers, and whether if she wants to be a superhero, what does and does not want to do with her powers. And we see that she manifests her powers in front of her sister, and her sister says that, "Oh, you're just like Dad." But later on in the episode, we see that Lynn and Anissa do a CAT scan on Jennifer, and we kind of learn that her powers are more... So Black Lightning power, he gets his powers by pulling energy from around him. So he'll pull the electricity out of objects that are around him, and just electricity in the area. And that's why you see, lights will turn off when he's around and things like that. So Jennifer's powers are kind of the opposite. So what she does is Lynn describes her as a generator. So what happens is Jennifer's cells are generating energy. So she is basically creating energy from herself. So she doesn't pull energy from around her. So essentially, she's kind of the opposite of her dad. And what I would think, or what I would like to see is, in this episode we see Black Lightning and Anissa use their powers together to kind of do some moves and take down these bad guys. So I'd like to see what Jefferson and Jennifer can do, because essentially he can pull his power, or pull electricity from Jennifer herself. It kind of supercharged himself. So that'd be interesting to see later on in the series. So the last thing that I want to talk about is Gamby in this episode. So as a result of Gamby and then Anissa and Black Lightning going to the warehouse and kind of tipping the ASA off, what we see is that the ASA comes after Gamby and kind of makes the connection that Gamby knows how to get in contact with Black Lightning, and they basically kidnap him and try to torture him to get the information out of him. And what ends up happening is, Gamby's not talking, obviously, because he's, we know that he's a caring person and obviously wants to protect Jefferson and his family. So what ends up happening is the main ASA guy ends up sending some other ASA agents to go get Jefferson, because he knows that Jefferson is like the adopted son of Gamby. And after this meeting, And when Jefferson is there, we see, the lights go out and he's able to save Gamby from the ASA. So this kind of tips and kind of confirms for the ASA that Jefferson is Black Lightning. So this is going to be interesting to see how this plays out. And also, in addition to this storyline, we find out that the new person that is spotting these children and tipping the ASA off to the students that are manifesting powers is the vice principal of the high school. So that's also going to be interesting to see between Jefferson or the ASA knowing that Jefferson is Black Lightning and the vice principal kind of having her own nefarious motives behind everything, and her being the one, alerting the ASA to come pick up these kids. Now let's take a look at the episode description for next week's episode, episode 11, Black Jesus, the Book of Crucifixion. And justice for all. As suspicions grow that Jefferson Pierce is Black Lightning, the ASA arranges to have him arrested. So that sentence is pretty self-explanatory. Jefferson Pierce is going to be arrested on suspicions that he is a Black Lightning. Next episode. Basic, simple as that. Lynn seeks help from Detective Henderson. So she's going to probably go to Detective Henderson personally and try to, explain to him that, he's not a criminal, he's trying to help, maybe along those lines, and just try to get Jefferson out of jail, or trying to get him to help her, because there's obviously some corrupt individuals in the police department that are under, the direction of the ASA, so maybe they will, go that route and try to, get rid of those dirty cops. Meanwhile, as Jefferson is in custody, Gamby and Anissa work together to show Black Lightning is still running around the streets of Freeland. So, what it looks like is going to happen is they are going to maybe kind of put on a facade to try to make the police think that Black Lightning's still out there, even though that they have Jefferson Pierce in custody, to try to break those suspicions and to try to convince the police that, Jefferson Pierce is not Black Lightning, because, obviously Jefferson Pierce is behind bars and Black Lightning is still out on the street. That's all I have for you guys this week. As always, follow me on social media to stay updated with when I'm posting videos and everything, and when blog posts have gone up for all of the CW superhero shows on my blog. I have Instagram, I have a Twitter, check out my blog, subscribe, and as always, happy Tuesday, and let's talk.